Hey everyone, Michael Short here. Come on, let's go outdoors. You know, every 5 years, biologists from Alberta Environment and Parks and Alberta Conservation Association get together to do an interesting survey of Ferruginous hawks. Now, this hawk is endangered in Alberta, and biologists are interested to find out just how many nesting pairs come back up to our province year after year. If you spend time in the prairie grasslands of southern Alberta, you may be fortunate to catch a glimpse of this large hawk. Back in the 1980s, these hawks were far more common, but several factors have led to reduced numbers over the years.
There's several reasons for it. One is that, just the habitat availability. There's been a lot of cultivation in the natural grasslands where they occur. And that can reduce their prey availability because the prey starts to move. And also, like if we have fire suppression down there too, what happens is we're starting to let some of the shrubs and the trees kind of encroach on the grasslands when we're not suppressing the fires. And then that can bring in other species like Swainson's hawks and other birds that might compete with the Ferruginous hawks. So another reason would be just the nest site availability. So they like to have these big old lone trees in the grasslands that you can see from a mile away. But as time goes on, these trees are getting older, they get rubbed by cattle, they come down or they're taken down, and then they lose that nest site for them. So those are sort of the primary reasons why we're starting to lose them.
In 2009, a recovery plan was introduced by Alberta Environment and Parks. This spelled out specific guidelines for industry and other stakeholders to follow when operating around hawk nesting sites.
We have guidelines now for biologists and industry to try to do a better job just doing pre-construction surveys, finding out where they are. Then we have setback guidelines around the nest sites. So there's buffer zones around the nest sites at certain times of year to prevent any disturbance, because one of the things I didn't mention earlier, but they are very prone to disturbance. So if you have a construction site, or if you're building a wind farm, or if you just have a power line nearby, like they can be quite sensitive. For such a big hawk, they're kind of delicate, and so they don't like to have a lot of disturbance.
A survey is carried out between Provincial and Alberta Conservation Association biologists every 5 years, and there seems to be some room for optimism.
I'm quite excited to see what the population results are from this year. As you know, there's a huge Richardson ground squirrel population, and just anecdotally, we're seeing lots of Ferruginous hawks. So I'm really excited to see how the Ferruginous hawk population has recovered over the last 7 years now, because the last provincial survey was done in 2015. There's some delays due to COVID issues and stuff like that, but now we're finally doing this provincial survey in 2022 led by AEP. So I'm quite positive and hopeful for the numbers. It's amazing. A lot of the ranchers and landholders have really stepped up and have really protected their hawk nests and the trees that have those nests in them. These guys are a voracious eater of Richardson's ground squirrels, a nasty pest. So they're quite, the Ferruginous hawks are quite loved by the landholders and the ranching community to come out and try to thin out some of those populations. And so there has been a huge uptake of nest poles being installed. So putting up those permanent structures that have more secure sites with their nest actually strapped down so that the wind doesn't blow them off, and providing those sites so that they can, raise 3 to 4 young out of some of those nests and really help the population. We've seen a huge increase in that over the years, which is great.
Ironically, we've come to appreciate the hunting skills of the Ferruginous hawks to rid landowners of the Richardson ground squirrels, which up to this point have been poisoned with strychnine.
That was used for controlling the ground squirrel population. So yeah, and that can have secondary effects on other species. So it was in 2020, I believe it was banned by Health Canada, but it's sort of a slow progression. But I think 2023 is when it's banned completely. So that'll be beneficial for Ferruginous hawks, burrowing owls, swift fox, other endangered species that we're concerned about. Yeah. I am optimistic that if we keep managing them, and industry's been working with us, we have other partners too, and as long as everybody keeps, keeping an eye out for the hawks, I think they'll be rebounding.